Hello and welcome to Anime Only, where fans come to talk about the anime adaptations of popular manga. My name is Brandon, and today I want to talk about One Piece. More specifically, with the recent release of episode 1100 giving us some surprising information, I wanted to go back through the years and talk about the top 10 surprise reveals in One Piece. There's a lot to go over, so let's get right to it.
Follow in my footsteps, I say hello, 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 hello. You can't do what I do, that's just something you don't.
Number 10. Nami was a pirate. The first time Luffy meets Nami, she introduces herself as a thief who only steals from pirates because of some bad blood she's had with them in the past. She reluctantly joins Luffy's crew with the intention of stealing any booty they acquired, using their trust in her against them. And for nearly 30 episodes, this is the personality she portrayed, openly showing disgust for any pirate, and saying that they get what they deserve when any misfortune befalls them. But come to find out that she actually is a pirate in Arlong's crew. And since we don't find out the story between Nami and Arlong for a few more episodes, the shock that this little thief lied not only to Luffy but to us as well was reeling, and probably the first red flag on how Ichiro Oda likes to screw with us. Number 9. The toys of Dressrosa are people. Shortly after Punk Hazard, with our crew allying themselves with the Heart Pirates, we find ourselves at Dressrosa, controlled by the warlord and ex-celestial dragon, Doflamingo Don Quixote. When the crew makes landfall, they are amazed to see living toys walking the streets. Which, for this show, really isn't all that weird, so we don't give it a second thought. Our brains just go, oh, I guess there's toy people now. But after also allying with the oppressed Tontada tribe and a rebel toy soldier, it's discovered that one of Doflamingo's lieutenants, a young-looking girl named Sugar, is the holder of the Hobby fruit, which allows her to, among other things, turn people into toys, taking away their free will and making all of the people in their lives forget about them. On paper, this kind of power doesn't really seem that bad, like communism. But in practice, also like communism, it's one of the most horrifying things that this show has to offer. And for me, at least, this was one hell of a twist. Number 8. Sabo is alive. Through a flashback, we see young Luffy with his adoptive brothers, Ace and Sabo. We see the bond between the three of them grow as they hunt for food, build a treehouse, and fight random bandits and such. All three of the brothers voiced their desire to become pirates and tried desperately to recruit the others to their crew. Sabo, for various reasons, was the first to try his hand at setting sail from Dawn Island, but was ill-fated to have crossed the path of a passing ship owned by a celestial dragon. Enraged that anyone would dare cross his path, the celestial dragon opened fire on Sabo's small boat, sinking it and making Luffy and Ace believe he had just been killed. Cut to about 150 episodes later in Dressrosa, turns out Sabo's alive. The celestial dragon attacked. Instead of killing the small child on a rickety boat in the middle of the same ocean that's home to the sea beast that took Shanks' arm, it just gave him plot amnesia, and he was only able to snap out of it once he heard news of Ace's death. This reveal had a mixed reception in the fan base. On one hand, everybody likes Sabo, so it was kinda cool having him back. On the other hand, this experience further cheapened the idea of death in One Piece. And after this, I keep expecting people like Ace or Whitebeard to show back up. Honestly, I could probably do a whole video about this, but I'm pretty sure it's been done to death, so we'll see. Number 7. Kuma was at Sabaody to help the crew. At Sabaody Archipelago, our crew witnesses firsthand the kind of debauchery the world nobles and those allied with them are privy to. After punching out a celestial dragon at a slave auction, Luffy and the gang are attempting to flee when Big Daddy Kuma shows up and yeets them to the four corners, giving our crew the first real defeat that they've ever suffered, as well as a minor case of PTSD. After our crew reunites 2 years later, we find out that Kuma not only saved their lives that day from the admiral that was headed their way, but he also sat and protected the Thousand Sunny from any who would try to steal or damage it until the crew's return, making the first person to beat our crew one of their most important allies. Number 6. Ace actually dies. Starting around episode 460 is the Marineford arc, centered around the Marines trying to publicly execute Ace, with Luffy, Whitebeard, and a whole bunch of other pirates trying to stop them. After a series of fights between some of the strongest in the One Piece world, it seemed as though Luffy had saved Ace and almost got away. And even though they were almost out of danger, Ace ignored Whitebeard's order for him to run and allowed himself to be goaded into fighting Akainu, despite the fact that if he got caught again or killed, it would make the whole war pointless. And of course, that's exactly what happened, much to our surprise, and eventual donut memes. Number 5. Blackbeard gains a second Devil Fruit power. Also during Marineford, we have one of the biggest turns in the show up to this point. We've been told, I forget by whom, that if someone eats 2 devil fruits, the devils inside the fruits war with each other and make the eater explode. Of course, we've never had an example of this happening, but it's an established rule. Well, that rule got thrown out the window when Blackbeard shows up at Marineford and kills Whitebeard. And after covering a still-standing, now deceased Whitebeard and himself in a massive shroud, Blackbeard emerges with not only his Dark fruit, but also Whitebeard's Quake fruit. The first and only example of someone eating 2 devil fruits. This, of course, has caused no end to questions and theories over the years and has still not been answered. Number 4. Shirahoshi is Poseidon. In Alabasta, Robin finds a poneglyph that mentions the ancient weapons, Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus. Pluton has been assumed to be a massive battleship thanks to the blueprints that Frankie had, so it was assumed that the other weapons would be, weapons. But after our crew arrives at Fishman Island, it's discovered that the princess of Fishman Island, Shirahoshi, is actually the ancient weapon Poseidon, born with the power to control Sea Kings. This revelation threw everyone for a loop, and now everybody is wondering what Uranus could be. And personally, I'm wondering if Pluton was actually a ship, since we never saw the blueprints that Frankie shows fandom ourselves. Whatever the case, you can be sure that the answer to these questions isn't going to be boring. Number 3. Raizo was in Zou the whole time. Moving on to Zou, the Minks found themselves in trouble when Jack, one of Kaido's lead performers, was sent to find a ninja named Raizo who was said to be hiding there. No matter how many times he asked and how many Minks he slaughtered, the Minks kept saying they don't know who Raizo is. For days this went on. Countless lives were lost. The leaders had an arm and a leg taken from them, and still their response was the same. If it wasn't for Doflamingo, who worked for Kaido, getting beaten up and captured, Jack wouldn't have had to leave before killing everyone. Fast forward to when the crew shows up with Kinemon, Kanjuro, and Momonosuke. As soon as Dogstorm and Cat Viper see the samurai, they reveal that Raizo was there the entire time. This was crazy and awesome. These people were so loyal to the Wano samurai that they died without question to safeguard Raizo. This twist basically sets the entire Wano arc into motion, since without Raizo, the raid would have been doomed to fail. Number 2. An alternate way to gain Devil Fruit powers? At Whole Cake Island, we, the viewers, are privy to Big Mom's past via flashback. Big Mom was an orphan, cared for by Mother Caramel, who raised orphans to sell as slaves, as well as being the holder of the Soul Fruit. She and her group of orphans threw a birthday party for little Big Mom, and this is where Big Mom has one of her many hunger pangs, a state in which she blacks out and eats uncontrollably until her hunger is sated. During Big Mom's hunger pangs, she ends up eating all the food, all the children, and Mother Caramel. When she comes to, she discovers that she can use Mother Caramel's Soul power. This explains how Blackbeard gained Whitebeard's power. He must have eaten a chunk of them underneath that shroud. Doesn't really explain how he can hold 2 fruits though. Number 1. There is no Gum Gum fruit. So this is the big one, right? Which is probably why I put it at number 1, I guess. From episode 1, when Luffy goes up against Alvida, we're told that his devil fruit is the Paramecia Gum Gum fruit. Thus why he yells Gum Gum before every attack, even though almost no other fruit user does that. But I'll save that for another video. But just revealed in episode 1100, and honestly the whole reason I'm even making this video, after a run-in with Rob Lucci on Egghead Island, Luffy uses Gear 5 and Vegapunk is shocked to see the Warrior of Liberation. He reveals to our crew that there is no such thing as a Gum Gum fruit, and that Luffy's fruit is in fact the mythical human fruit model Nika, the sun god, which makes him a Zoan type, not a Paramecia. Honestly, this doesn't really change anything going forward, but it does, however, bring up the question, don't fruit eaters innately know what the names and abilities of their fruits are? So why doesn't Luffy know what the name of his fruit is, or what it could do? I do have some thoughts on this, but I think it requires a whole video unto itself. So stay tuned for that within the next couple of weeks. And those were my picks for the top 10 surprise reveals in One Piece. What do you guys think of my list? What do you guys think of my video? If you guys can think of any other surprise reveals or twists, or if you have any other critique or suggestions, go ahead and leave all that down in the comments. And if you've made it this far in the video, please hit that like and subscribe button. My channel is minuscule, and the likes really help. So I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
Follow in my footsteps, I see